benchmark, or your state. If you choose state, then it's minimum proficiency on your state test. Projected is going to show what the student would attain if they experience typical growth. And here, this also says SGP of 50. The calculation is based just on the first reading test. So this projected score is based on your first test. This will not change. Okay? Projected is going to be the same from the first test of the year to the end of the year. Will never change no matter how many times you test the kids. But the predicted will. Okay? The predicted is going to change every time you take a test. Yeah, it is great. There was somebody asked about this kind of a guide. Yeah, no matter where you're at, that help menu is a smart help menu. It brings up information based on the screen that you're on. So that can really be really helpful. Some of the other dashboards aren't going to have data on them because they're for like our practice programs or some of our other programs, but these are the two that I thought would be the most helpful for you right now. So it at least shows you kind of where you're going and what kind of growth you're seeing. Let's talk about SGP. Oh, sure. SGP is what's in the diamond. Yep, SGP, what's in the diamond. So it's showing their growth. It's showing their growth. Let's go ahead and bring up a growth report and talk about SGP and what that means. Because if you haven't had training on that so far, that's not going to make a whole lot of sense. Let's scroll all the way back to the top, everybody, and let's go back to home. I'm going to go under reading assessments. You can either go reading, early literacy, or math, whichever one you want to look at data for. And I'm going to go to reports. And if I'm going too fast, somebody stop me. From the reports, and it sounds like most of you are fairly comfortable with reports, the one I want to look at is the growth report. And I'm going to choose my class and view report. I'm going to pick a different class that has this. Oh, no data. That's not good. Hold on, let me try one other thing. Hopefully your growth report's coming up and you're seeing your numbers. Oh. Okay, let me make this a little bigger here. All right, so when you are looking at your growth report, it sounds like what you're seeing is that your growth expectation is 50 up here. Now, this is something that would be set like at a district level. So it has to be an administrator that has a setting that would put your growth expectation up here. SGP is a little different than the rest of the scores. Notice between my SGP column and the other scores, oh, good. You're going to be looking at this on Monday. This is perfect then. Oh, I'm glad we were able to fit this in. See how there's like a darker gray line here, kind of separating SGP from the other scores? Because it's handled just a little differently. These are, when you look at the other scores over here to the right, we have scale score, grade equivalent, Grade equivalent is a normed reference score comparing them to other kids. Percentile rank, normed reference score comparing them to other kids in the same grade across the country. NCE, basically the same as percentile rank. IRL, instructional reading level. I noticed some of you said you haven't had any training. Just a real quick review of those. Those are taking a look at your student scores, just comparing your first test of the year to the most recent. That's what the growth report does. The first test to the most recent, and it just shows how they're comparing. And for years, this is what we had. And it's great. It's nice. If you're in math, yes. Nicole, if you have a speaker icon next to some of the scores, it means that for STAR Math, the test was read to them. We can't read it to them in reading, but in math you can. So let me ask you this, something to think about. Percentile rank. That's how we benchmark the kids. We have a certain percentile rank we want the students to get to. If you have somebody who starts the year with you, say at the 90th percentile, and somebody who starts the year with you at the 25th percentile, would you expect to see the same amount of growth from them? No. So thank you for that. Yeah, I know the student at the 90th percentile, they're already way above everybody else. And so what we can do with SGP is kind of take that a step further. So with percentile rank, we're comparing your students to other kids in the same grade who took this test at about the same time of year, and we're telling you how they're doing compared to those other kids in the same grade. Well, when somebody at the 90th percentile is compared against everybody, it's going to be hard for them to show growth. SGP helps even the playing field so everybody can show growth, because you know what that does? It compares them to everybody in the same grade who took the test at about the same time, and only compares them to other kids who have a similar scoring history in STAR. So your high-performing students are only going to be compared against other high-performing students who would typically have a hard time showing growth. Your at-level kids going to be compared more against other average, typical at-level kids. Low-level kids can be compared to other low-performing students. So we're comparing them to their academic peers, students who have had similar scale scores in STAR and are in the same grade and started out about the same. So what we're seeing here then, and let me check Pennsylvania for us here. Now I don't see that Pennsylvania has this as a reporting, something that they've adopted for reporting purposes, but we do have 29 states that are using it right now, 9 more are investigating it. So we kind of took our lead, and that's why we added it to this. So many states are using it now. The states that are using it now have said, when we look at our students' growth, a median of 50, which is what you guys have set, so that's perfect, a median of 50 is what would be considered typical growth. So if you're looking at a whole class or you're looking at a whole school, then a median of 50 is going to be typical growth. But when we're looking at individual students, like we are here on the growth report, individual students, most states have said, you know what, there can be some fluctuation there. So we're going to go plus 15 minus 15 from 50 as what we would consider typical for an individual student. Remember when we were on that overview dashboard, everybody, I said that yellow section is 35 to 65 typical growth. That's exactly what we're looking at here. Yeah, look at that. So this is, yeah, sample data is always fun. But this, you could see this, let me explain what we're seeing here. Cassie has a great question. So remember remember I said that the bar between SGP and those dates is gray and a little darker and a little bolder because it's separate. This SGP may not be just based on these two scores. It can go back to a previous score as well. So it just depends. And sample data is just people taking tests here at the company, and they fluctuate all over the place. So not a good example of probably what you're going to see. Yeah. But that is a really good question, because you could have a student whose scores go down. Let's say you've got somebody in the 90th percentile, and their scores go down, their scale score go down, their PR goes down, but their SGP could still be 40. In that case, that would mean that even though they dropped, we see, let's see, that other students who started where they did dropped even more, especially if like they were at the really high level. So you will never see SGP as a negative number. It depends on what you're looking at. That's a great question, Maggie. What do you look at? What's important to look at here? If you are trying to see if your students are meeting a benchmark, like if your benchmark at your school is the 40th percentile, and you're trying to get everybody to the 40th percentile, then look at PR. Then look at percentile rate. If you want to see, are they growing, then I would look at SGP. And your individual SGPs right here, 35 to 65, is what we would consider typical growth. If you want to scroll all the way down to the bottom of your report, there's a summary. And if you want to look at the median and see what that is, again, we're aiming for 50 there. You can see your whole class down at the bottom. So that's the nice thing about STAR. You get to see both. You get to see growth, and you get to see benchmarks. Does everybody know what the benchmark is for your school? You should know that. And if you haven't seen it before, I'll be glad to show you. That would make some of these reports a lot more meaningful for you. All right. There's a couple different ways to see it. I'm going to show you one right within a report just because we're running out of time here. Everybody scroll up to the top. Scroll up to the top. In the upper left-hand corner, can you click on select a different report for me, please? I'm going to have you go into the second section down here under additional reports. Can you click on the growth proficiency chart for me, please? And I do have a way of demoing this without data. Hold on. I'm going to let you guys bring that up. I just have to go somewhere else to get mine. All right. I'm hoping everybody found that. If you need help with it, let me know, chat in. But up on the screen, let me explain this really quick. And I'm logged in as a district administrator. So that means on this chart, I'm seeing all the schools in my district. And I can click on a school and then see all the teachers. As a teacher, though, you are going to start here. You are going to see a blue circle for each of your classes. So I just got to the place where you are. Because as a teacher, you're not able to see other teachers' classes. They're not able to see yours. All right, so let's take a look at, this is exactly what we were just talking about, how we can see growth and proficiency in one place. And this is a really cool view to be able to see your students. So up on the left, you see percent proficient. So the higher that blue circle is, the higher the percentage of your students that are meeting proficiency. Now go ahead and look up here in the upper right-hand corner, and it does show proficiency, and it gives you the option of district benchmark and state benchmark. District, look at mine here really quick. It says at or above the 40th percentile. Could somebody tell me what it says for your school? What is the PR? says 85 PR.